Hi, I'm Rachel Pomerantz, Health and Wellness Editor for U.S. News and World Report. Today we have with us Cindy Chupack, who is well known for her writing and producing of HBO's Sex and the City and also Modern Family. She is here with us to talk about her latest book, The Longest Date, Life as a Wife. And thank you so much for being here, Cindy. We are so excited to have you here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So tell us, we know you as the poster child for the single Sex and the City woman in New York City.
I feel like kind of a traitor putting out a book on marriage.
Yeah, but this was the quest, right?
Yes,
and so
right.
and now you're on the other side.
Uh-huh.
What would you tell your former single self?
Enjoy yourself. This is still a great period of life, and you're going to figure out who you are and what you want and have a lot of fun and travel and do everything that is easier to do as a single person. And when you find the right person you can't live without, you'll know, and you'll well, you might not know right away, but you'll realize you can't live without him.
And so how long did it take you to know? Because it sounds like you didn't know right away, or you protested.
Yes.
Anyways,
He seemed like he was the first person I thought, absolutely, this is not the right guy. I always felt, this is the person I'm going to marry, and I would plan my future, and I would be sorely disappointed. And with Ian, the man I married, I was like, this is not the guy. Do not let me fall for him. And then, of course, I've been happily surprised ever since.
And so, why did you say he's not the guy?
He was such a bad boy when I met him. It still is a little bit, but tattoos, motorcycle, hated his job, drank too much, told me he'd break my heart,
right.
Had dated everyone, was still dating everyone. You name it. It was like all the red flags, and yet he just turned out to be such a good guy.
So is there any lesson there that we can draw, or
do
we draw?
Not.
Okay.
I think what happened was I didn't lower my standards. I didn't come around and accept all that. I sort of said, okay, if that's who you are, I'm going to keep looking. And I did keep looking, and I think there was something about giving him the rope to do what he wanted. When I met him, he wanted to travel. Don't stop me from going to South America. I'm going. And I just agreed, and I wasn't playing a game. I thought, okay, yeah, do. And there was something about not being a person trying to change him that changed him.
Okay. Yeah. And so, tell us a little bit about marriage. You write about some of the ups and downs, the negotiations. One example is that now you're a proud dog owner, and that was an initial struggle for you. Can you talk about some of the negotiations in your marriage?
Yes, one reason I wanted to write about marriage as the longest date, after writing about being single for so long, is I felt when I married that all the girls I used to talk to about everything, all my friends, everybody kind of closed ranks when they got married, and suddenly were more loyal to their spouse, which I guess is a great thing and a nice trait, but also felt nervous to talk about problems because would it sound like a big problem? They made a mistake, didn't want to seem ungrateful to their single friends. There's a lot of reasons not to talk about your marriage honestly with anyone else. And yet I think there's a lot of reasons too, which I felt, which is to make you understand that everybody has these issues or different issues, some issue with their spouse, things they go through, struggles, they're not always on the same page, and it makes you feel better about it once you commiserate with some friends.
Which I think was the genius of Sex and the City, right? Was that it aired things that hadn't been aired to that extent, let's say, before.
Things you felt and thought about but hadn't maybe said.
Or maybe you did say to your girlfriends, but not taped.
Yeah, not for the world. So anyway, there were many surprises to me about just how much resistance I had to change, even though I really wanted a husband. It was more in me, but I kept thinking he still seemed like a house guest to me, not a permanent residence. He moved into my house, and as much as I wanted a guy there, I didn't really want his things there.
Right.
And then the dog, when I met him, he wanted a dog. I thought, that's romantic, a boyfriend with a dog. But then when we were going to have a dog, we were trying to have a baby, I was resistant. He wanted a big dog, so we got a Saint Bernard.
Right. It doesn't get bigger than a Saint Bernard, I guess.
It doesn't really. I mean,
sheepdog, maybe.
She's a small Saint Bernard, but but anyway, I lost that negotiation. I mean, I detail it in the book, but I really felt it was a mistake. It sounds sort of small now, but I was really upset because it felt like we brought this giant dog in the house. I didn't think I wanted her. She was slobbering and shedding because she was nervous, I realized later. But
Right.
I just thought, what have we done? And she was a rescue, and Ian, I was already in love with her. There was no giving her back. And it seemed like such an impasse. And it was like a negotiation I lost that I'm glad I lost because, of course, I grew to love the dog. And now I can't imagine all those years without that dog. And we still have the dog.
Mm-hmm. And are there other surprises that you found along the way about being married that maybe you could share?
Yeah, just really, well, I found I was a bit of a curmudgeon and a control freak, which I didn't realize. I thought I was really fun, and I still think I'm pretty fun, but it just,
you're up against someone who's repelling with a hose or right? So, the fun quotient has been
he's
seriously
raised the bar.
Yeah. Who could compete with that? Who could compete with that?
Yeah, I realized I didn't really know my neighbors before he moved in. He kind of met everybody around us and forced me to meet everyone around us. Then the dog did, then the baby eventually.
Right.
We had a baby, and I just realized I had been living, even though it was sort of a public life, like a pretty isolated life. And I liked it that way, I thought.
Yeah.
But now I feel very happy being more part of the world.
Yeah. And what about, can you talk a little bit about that was a very tough quest, having a baby, and painful in all respects. What can you tell us about going through that process? Or what can you tell other people who are going through that process?
That's something that really caught me off guard. And being a woman who married, I was 40 when we got married, even though I was wishing, I kept trying to make it a month earlier so I'd still be 39. But I shouldn't have been surprised it was hard, but we did. We had, went through kind of all the steps that people who are trying later in life, or sometimes just people who are having trouble, go through. And one big realization for me was that whenever I had friends who were trying, I had probably said, "Congratulations, that's so great," instead of really probably what they meant is, we're trying, it's not easy, we've been trying, we want a baby, and it's not happening.
Right.
And the longer you're trying, the more trying it is. And I feel much more sensitivity now toward what people went through. I even feel that I had friends who had miscarriages and told me that, and I didn't realize quite what that meant to them, and how hard that was to get over and to go through.
Right.
I probably said I was sorry, but I didn't really understand. And so there were a lot of things I became much more empathetic to, and also just sort of blindsided by. I think you have to be really honest with yourself when you're in the middle of that, about what you're ready for, how much longer you want to keep trying, what the road you're on, and when you're ready to move on to the next one. There were it felt like it was taking us forever, but there were definitely some times when I asked Ian, I need 6 months just to do nothing, or just to stop trying to have a baby for a little while.
Right.
Or before we move on to adoption from egg donor, can I just wait? Because he kept saying, I want to be excited about it. And I felt like when we meet an adoption attorney, I don't want to still be mourning everything we've been through.
Right.
So I think you have to build that in. And you also, as much as I feel like women should talk to each other and be open, it's such a personal decision how you decide to complete your family. And you'll get so many opinions from people, how they think you should do it, or if they think you should do it, or what they would do, or where you should adopt from. It's kind of astounding the amount of opinions you get on how you should have a baby.
Right, not that you were asking for them.
And I think people are just trying to be helpful, but you really have to just make sure you're being honest with yourself and with your spouse, if you're doing it with someone, what your comfort level is and what you want, and then there's always a way. There's always a way.
And so can you tell us about your way, how it ended up happening for you guys?
Yeah, we finally decided to adopt, and our decision was to adopt domestically because I kind of wanted the newborn experience, and we were right there in the delivery room. Now, even saying this, I know there's plenty of babies that we considered adopting abroad. We had trouble reconciling where we wanted to adopt from abroad. I had the idea of adopting from China in my head, which has become very difficult, actually. And he wanted to adopt from Africa, and we couldn't seem to reconcile our adopted baby. But anyway, I know so many people have done it all different ways, or adopted foster children, or adopted on their own, or had a surrogate carry baby. It just seems like there's a zillion ways to make it happen if you really want a baby,
right?
And want to have a family. And now I'm so glad. And of course, now I don't feel like I'd want any other child than her.
Right. That's wonderful. So you talked about marriage, some of the surprising parts about marriage. What would you say, how would you say marriage has changed you and parenting has changed you?
It's definitely made me more a citizen of the world, I guess. I mean, it serves you as a woman, I think, to be selfish, and I don't think that's a terrible word,
Mm-hmm.
and especially as a working woman, to be driven and to know what you need and to take care of your own self,
Mm-hmm.
and even buy your own place, and
Right.
it's all great. And then when you try to fit someone into it, it's like you have to kind of relearn everything and learn how to make decisions with another person and
Mm-hmm.
share your stories, and all of that I think has been good for me to open up and remember I can still be who I am as an individual, but I'm also now part of a couple, and now I'm part of a family.
Right.
And I think I became part of a family when we got the St. Bernard, but now I'm part of a bigger family that includes a child.
And it was funny because you talked about how you and your husband are both storytellers, and yet you have to one of the things I think every couple will talk about is how they hear each other's stories over and over and over
Yes.
again.
I wrote in
how
the
do
book,
you-
do
how do
I
you-
have to listen again to the story I've heard?
Right.
Is it rude to get up? It's
Right.
one of our
Yeah.
biggest.
Did you ever resolve that one?
I still haven't resolved it. And in
Okay.
fact, since I've been on this book tour,
Yeah.
last night I spoke at 6th and I
Mhm.
in DC,
Mhm.
and I had microphone audience, and my husband's brother was there. 2 brothers were there.
Yeah.
And after they said, "You're so funny, you should talk more at our events," and I was like, I basically need a microphone and an audience to, you take the stand, because now it's me, Ian, who has a lot of stories. It's
Yeah.
it's not that often you can just sort of hold your own.
Yeah.
I basically need a book tour.
Right. So what would you say you're hoping to get out of the book tour, the book, all this experience, sharing these stories?
I hope, that I hope, first of all, it's just an enjoyable, fun read, but I also hope it makes women who are going through the baby quest, and men, to feel less alone with that, and to just feel understood and be able to laugh a little bit, and also mourn different parts of the process that just require a little period of moving on, feel understood.
Mhm.
And then I also hope that it reminds women who are on the quest to find a husband that that's
Mhm.
not the end of the story, for better or worse. It's a
Right.
new beginning.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Here's to new beginnings, a new year, and thanks for joining us. This
Thank
was
you.
so Cindy Chupack, who is a writer on Sex and the City and many other American comedies. Thank you so much.
Thank you.